Good morning, everyone. I'm Jerry Larson, Mayor of East Hampton Village, and I welcome everyone to the East Hampton Village Board Meeting, December 3rd, 2020. Before we start, if we could stand for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
With the republic for which it stands, one nation,
God.
indivisible, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If you could stay standing for a moment of silence, please. One of our longtime members of the fire department passed away last night. And I'd just like a moment of silence for Robert, and we all knew him as Bo Lawler. Thank you, everybody. So, Bo was a terrific guy, and I knew him most of my adult life. I actually started working for him when I was a brand new, actually I was still a traffic control officer, and I started driving a taxi for Lawler's Taxi a long time ago. He's going to be missed, and I wish the best to his family, and our thoughts and prayers are with them. Jerry, are you on? Jerry Terza, Fire Chief? I was hoping he could say a few words about Bo. I know Bo did serve 40 years with the fire department. That's a really outstanding achievement. And again, I can't say enough nice things about Bo and his family. He's going to be sorely missed. If anybody would like to say anything, feel free.
Mayor, we have a caller on the line.
We're not really ready for public comment.
Copy.
I'd like to give a couple of updates before we get into our meeting. The first one is that I'd like to thank Sandra Melendez for spearheading the Thanksgiving coordination with the food pantries. My wife, Lisa, and Marcos's wife, Jenny, spearheaded this with Sandra, and they made over 500 pies for the 2 food pantries in East Hampton. It was an outstanding achievement, and we thank you guys for doing that. And it really showed what I've been talking about for a long time, and I wanted to bring our family, the village family, together, and this really illustrated what I've been talking about, because this was a coordination with the PBA, the fire department, the ambulance, the DPW, and everybody who works for the village, including our board. And we all came together, and we were able to do this as a team to provide these desserts for the food pantries. So again, I think it was a job well done, and it's what I've been talking about, a friendly government, helpful government, and I want to see this keep going. So thanks, Sandra, and everybody who was involved. I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. We had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah. I just get a quick update on the street, the Christmas lights. DPW is doing a great job. Again, Sandra spearheaded that and has changed. You'll see a lot of changes. Most of them are white lights this year. She wanted to make it an elegant Christmas atmosphere. And so we're moving forward with that. Some people think we got a late start, but that's really not true. Historically, we've always had the Christmas or holiday lights ready for our Santa parade, which is historically the first weekend of December. So we're right on track for our lights to come on. However, I think moving forward, and I talked to Dave about this, that we should move the lighting to Thanksgiving weekend. I think it would really bring more life to our village. So we were talking about doing that starting next year. On another good note, we're starting our dredging program of Town Pond. Just so the public's aware, we were kind of delayed for some DEC regulations, but now we're back on track. And the really good news is that Marcos has been working with the town, and it looks like we may be receiving a full what's the word I'm thinking of? Full payment of the dredging project. So through CPF money. So we're working on that, and that would be terrific news because that's $868,000 project. CPF granted us $191,000 for the original project, but now we've just went back to them, and it looks like we may get the whole thing covered. So that's really great news. The pond is way overdue for the dredging, and that's a really positive news. I wanted to do a quick COVID update. As everyone knows, the numbers are rising. And here in East Hampton Village, we're trying to do our best to control these numbers. As you know, Hampton Bays and Riverhead have been declared yellow zones under the governor's COVID regulations, which is a shutdown of certain businesses. And when you get to an orange zone, it's really bad for business. Restaurants can't do any type of indoor dining, things like that. So we really have to do our part. We have to stay diligent. I've met with the police department, with Chief Tracy, and we've handed out flyers to all the stores to remind them to require people to wear masks when they're inside. We started this initiative on Black Friday, and I'm going to let the chief give an update. And we've also given the tools to the police department to enforce the regulations, the governor's regulations, so that people are mandated to wear their masks when they are within 6 feet of other people. So that's really important because we want to keep our businesses open. We want to keep our residents safe and our visitors safe. So Chief Tracy, could you give a quick update on how many people we have stopped for violating the COVID regulations and what we've done to enforce the regulations? Okay, so I know on Black Friday, we stopped 59 people on Main Street in Newtown, and we informed them that we were in violation of the COVID rules. We offered them masks if they didn't have any, and everyone was compliant. I think we're somewhere up around 70 encounters now, and the numbers keep going up. So we're doing our part, and it takes everyone's cooperation. And you have to remember these social gatherings is where a lot of this is occurring according to the state. So we need to be diligent and stay focused on this so we don't wind up with another statewide shutdown. Chief, you have any updates?
Yes, can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
I can hear you. Can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, basically what we did is with the update to the emergency order, which you put in effect, as you said, just after Black Friday, I directed the men to use a particular section of the law, which was modified it was actually modified in July. And what we had, beginning in March, there was a lot of confusion, I'll say, and there was just different strategies regarding COVID in terms of enforcement. Not a lot of actual writing of the violations, as most of you know by reading Newsday. And most of the operations by PD and fire and, when we're going into places regarding crowding and crowds, has been warnings, and we've been very successful in terms of getting people to comply. But in July, a new section of the public health law was modified to specifically address face coverings. So in section 63 or 66, I'm sorry, of the public health law, and there's 4 sections in particular that we pointed out to the men that we expect now will be utilized. So one of them has to do with proximity to others without a face mask, basically the separation. And several of the others deal with commercial establishments and events. So if you are the host of an event, for example, and you are facilitating that event and you are not asking people to comply with this section, you are in fact in violation. And it's very simple for us to write that section now. And a clarification on these sections was given to the men. And it was made clear to our personnel that any failure to comply with a reminder, so to speak, will result in a summons. And then if there's a continuance of a failure to comply, we're not just going to write the summons and let the hazardous condition remain, we're going to remove the hazardous condition, which, although we don't want to do it, we'd much rather get compliance, and we're giving out masks when we have to. But if there's an arrest warranted, they'll make that arrest. So everybody's been fantastic, I must say. We had a couple of yard sales that we ran into, and we worked to keep them under control and safe. However, we've made a recommendation to the village that we not approve yard sales for the time being until it's deemed to be safe. But overall, we've had no problems. Our farm operation there in the Rudishan lot, they've been fantastic. They've been measuring the amount of people coming in and out. Everybody had masks. We've been there every week, and we're very happy with the way it's proceeding. So I would say we're getting 99% cooperation from those that we encounter on the street. And when we pointed out to the 1% that are not pulling their masks up or down, they're complying as well. So I think we're in good shape, and our community is doing its share.
That's great. Thanks, Chief. Dave, could you just come on and tell us about leaf pickup?
Yes, good morning. Looks like I've lost my video, but you can hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. The leaf pickup program is going to conclude on the 11th of this month, and we'll start final pickups in the neighborhoods. We're going to start at the west side of the village this year and move east. And once a street has been cleaned, no further collections will be made on that street. So any leaves deposited on the street after the street has been cleaned by our crew, it's going to be a responsibility of the homeowner to remove them. And as always, we ask the homeowners and contractors not to place sticks or branches in the piles. And this year we've added ornamental grasses to the list as well, as the grasses choke the leaf machines up pretty quickly. So that's pretty much it. If anybody has any questions about the leaf program, they can contact us here at DPW at 631-324-0641.
Thanks, Dave. All right, so now we're going to go to public comment. And I have to apologize. At the last meeting, we never even offered a public comment. That was my mistake. So you said you had one caller, Jody?
Yes, we have one caller on the line.
Okay, we're ready.
Caller, you're on the line. Caller, you're on the line.
Anyone there, Jody, or not?
No, it doesn't seem like it.
All right, so we'll just give it a couple more minutes, a minute or so, and we'll see if anybody else calls in. We'll also do public comment at the end, so we can always pick them up at the end. Just give it a minute, and then we'll go to our presentations. You're going to be the first up, Hugh.
Oh, okay. I'm also going to stick around for the centennial year, the honoring past mayors at village streets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think we need some clarification on the addresses with that. So
I thought you did that. I think we did that. No?
yeah, but I think we've got a couple of conflicts that.
Okay. All right. Give them to me and we'll give them to Lydia.
Yeah, I think Dave cleared one up already.
Okay.
He was saying that he checked with his dad, and I think it was Dr. Russell. We have him as a house on Main Street, but according to
his
actually on Newtown.
No, Dr. Russell, according to his granddaughter, lived at 76 Panago, near where Barney Clark lives, and on on the way to the funeral parlor on the right-hand side.
Okay,
That's what she told Lydia.
all right. All right, yeah, so we'll go through those in a minute. All right, any callers, Jody?
No, there's currently no callers on the line.
All right, so let's go, Hugh. You're the first up.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for me from last time? Okay, Trustee Graham?
I had a question for you, Hugh. I've seen on many old maps that Dunmere Lane did not go all the way down to the bridge. Do you know when Dunmere Lane was extended and what the circumstances were for that happening?
The only thing I know that is in the town records, in 1905, I believe that's when they put that bridge over Dunmere Lane, because they put one down in Springs over Accabonac, I think at the same time. So that's all I know. If that's when they extended it, it could have been then, but I'm not sure. That's all I know about that.
Okay, thank you.
Hugh, I had a question for you. What is the oldest historic building in the business district on Main Street?
Oh, in the business district on Main Street, the oldest historic building? Well, let's see, you got the Beecher House. Eileen Fisher used to be the Oddfellows Hall. That was built in 1899. And to the middle school, the middle part of the middle school was actually built in 1924. You know what the tallest building was in the village for a while?
No.
Albie Cavanero's building.
The tower.
Big Al's Cabbage's building, yeah, with those apartments. That was the tallest building in the village at one time. What else? Herrick Park is not a building. The theater was built in 26. Well, I don't know.
Well, to be continued.
Yeah, the village hall may be the oldest.
The Beecher House.
Cool. Anybody else?
Yes. I have a question about the holidays. How are you?
Hi.
So I was wondering, when was the first Santa parade and how did it get started?
Oh, when was the first Santa parade? I have no idea. But you know who might know is Ed from London Jewelers.
Okay.
Because he has been the chairperson of the parade for quite a while. I can find this out, but I have to do some research. So I will do some research and then I will email you the answer.
Great. Thank you.
Okay?
Yes.
Go. First Santa parade. Okay. All right. Now that's it. Right now I have questions for next time and then I'll be out of here. Okay?
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Trustee Brown, your question. When did we begin the idea of having Christmas lights on the tree? Where did that come from anyway? Okay. Chief Larson.
Ready.
Mayor Larson. Who began drawing this image of Santa Claus that we have today? It was a famous artist who started doing that. I'll email Trustee Minardi his. Trustee Graham, where did we get the idea of sending Christmas cards out? This idea come of sending cards out at Christmas. And then Trustee Melendez, if you could illuminate us on some of the traditions from your culture at Christmas that we may not be aware of or that we should be aware of. How about that?
Yeah, happy to do that.
Okay. So, and then I'll get you your answer when I can. And then one more thing, then I'm going. You know, you're going to talk about the bioswale. Well, you know, there were 3 buildings back there behind the Methodist Church at one time. The Hook Schoolhouse was back there. The townhouse was back there. and the town jail was back there at one time. And of course, they're all gone. Okay, that's it, Mr. Mayor. I'm out of here.
Oh, thanks, you.
I'll be
Hugh
back
King, I'm on
later.
the call. I'll take my question. It took me a while to get on.
Oh, Trustee Minardi, your question is, where did we get the idea of having Christmas trees? Where did this idea of having a Christmas tree come from?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so before we go to the next presentation, Jody, you have somebody?
Yes, we do.
All right, yeah, let's let him through.
Hi.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi, this is the village board meeting. Did you have something for us?
Yes, I'm sorry, I couldn't get through earlier. They were having some technical difficulties. So, Mayor Larson, thanks for taking the call. I'm a resident of the village and was wondering what you and the other board members, trustees, thought about the barge that was parked for a few days off the Wainscott Beach, and also wondering if you and the others had an opinion about the people of Wainscott looking to incorporate as a village. Would it matter to us as a village next to them? Would we work with them? How would that work? And again, thanks for your time, and would love to hear from each of the board members, the trustees.
He needs to state his name for the record. Just who's the caller's name?
Yeah, it's Robin Shahani of Pondview Lane.
Anyone want to go first, or?
Sure, I'll make a comment on that barge. I was surprised to see it. I didn't know they were starting a survey on the project. And frankly, I'm not a fan of the wind power project. And I was dismayed to see it. And as far as Wainscott incorporating, that I don't think that has any impact on our village at all.
Certainly quite a sight, the barge from the beach. Any other thoughts would be welcome.
Anyone else?
I would just say for incorporation of Wainscott, doesn't affect us, but if they ever need any help or just trying to be there if they get incorporated and work with another village, that would be fine for us. The same way other villages help us, and we've been working with other villages, so we'll be happy to help. That's about it.
Yeah, I would agree with what Sandra's saying. I mean, we're working very well with, not that we don't work well with the town, but I'm saying we work very well with Sag Harbor, and we're working with Southampton Village on our parking program. I can certainly see why a village would want to incorporate. I think village is probably the simplest form of government. I think you're the closest to the people. So I can definitely see why. And if that comes about, I think they have a long road ahead of them. But if that comes about, they would be right next to us. We would have no issues at all working closely with them. There's always shared services that can be done. And, you know, I'm sure that we would work very well with whoever, or if it's, you know, like I said, it has a long road to go yet, but we're definitely open to working with anyone. Anyone else?
I would just agree with everything that's been said. I think that the incorporation is very preliminary at this time, but we of course would work well with anyone else. And you bring up a good point about the shared services, Mayor. That would be an opportunity for us.
Thanks. I hope we answered your question.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Anybody else on the line, Jody, or can we go back to our presentations?
You guys can go back to the presentations. Nobody's.
All right, great. All right, so next up, it's very exciting. We have the LVIS with their bioswale project. Some of us had already seen it, but I wanted to bring it to the work session so everyone could see what is happening and the public could see what is happening. So please go right ahead.
Hi, this is Mara Diaz. I am going to share my screen. And hope that it works. Putting on a presentation. Jody, does that look all good there?
Looks good.
Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you. So thank you for the time on the agenda. I really appreciate it. My name's Mara Diaz. I'm actually with the Surfrider Foundation, but we've been working very closely with LVIS over the last few years, both on the bioswale project there at the Village Green, as well as this new project we're planning for the Methodist Lane site, which I just learned today has a lot of history. So thank you for that. If we look, we actually work with a lot of partners on this project. Surfrider, we've been working with Piazza Horticultural, LVIS, of course, Suffolk County Soil of Water, the Garden Club, and Mahoney Farm. It's really been a real collaborative community project that we're all pretty proud of. Just to introduce Surfrider a little bit, we are a national and even international nonprofit grassroots organization. We're really dedicated to the protection and enjoyment of our ocean waves and beaches. We have a network of volunteer chapters across the country and coastal states. We have about 85 chapters now, I believe, and over 100 student clubs. There happens to be one in the East Hampton Middle School here in East Hampton. On the East End, the Eastern Long Island chapter covers the area from Montauk Point to Moriches Inlet, where we're working on programs and outreach events and campaigns to protect clean water and healthy beaches. And specifically, we want the water clean. You know, our take on it is we want to make sure it's safe for us all to enjoy that water and to be able to recreate and play in the beach and the water. One of the programs we run so that we know where the water's clean and where there are some problems that need to be addressed is our Blue Water Task Force Water Quality Monitoring Program. We're out there testing our ocean and bay beaches and other surface waters for Enterococcus bacteria. This is an indicator that there's fecal pollution or human or animal waste in the water. And when this is in the water, there could also be pathogens that cause people to be sick. This is the same type of bacteria that the Suffolk County Department of Health tests for in their seasonal beach monitoring program, but generally they're only out there during the peak summer season, where we're out year-round for most of the year testing on a weekly basis to provide more information to everybody on where it's safe to swim and where there's problems. All of our data is posted on the website here. We also send out email alerts every time we go out and test. My email will be at the end of this presentation. If anybody's interested in signing up for that, you can just shoot me an email following. These are all the sites. We have, I think it's almost 60 sites now that we're testing. It, like I said, it's weekly during the summer and about monthly, you know, December, January, February when it's colder out. We work with the concerned citizens of Montauk to test the sites further east in Montauk and parts of the North Shore of East Hampton. And we work with Peconic Baykeeper to cover the sites further west. Generally, what we're finding, this map shows some older data from probably a month ago when I first put this presentation together. But generally, what we find is our ocean beaches are generally clean. Our bays, open bay beaches, are generally clean. But in the more enclosed harbors and water areas that don't have as much open exchange, the coastal ponds, we certainly see some higher levels of bacteria, especially after it rains. These are the sites that we're testing in the Hook Pond watershed in East Hampton Village. We have one site closer, you know, further south in the watershed right there by Main Beach. We have it off of Dunmere Lane. We were testing at the Duck Pond. Not surprisingly, it often was polluted. You know, there's definitely a lot of animal waste going into the water there. We just started testing the water as it comes up at the south drain, and we test it before it goes under the ground at Methodist Lane by the swale, and then as well testing Town Pond and the Village bioswale. What's our data showing us? This is all the results from all the samples we've collected. The red line shows the health standard that the county uses to issue swim advisories or closed beaches. It's at a count of 104. So anything above that red line exceeds the health standard and is officially unsafe for recreational exposure, and anything below is cleaner. So basically, this is showing us that 2/3 of the samples that we collect at that Methodist Lane swale do exceed that that bacteria standard. We were surprised when we first started testing the Fithian Lane drain that nearly every sample we pull there exceeds that standard. We were surprised to see the difference. So I'm not 100% sure what's happening there, but this is all interesting information that we're collecting before this project goes in. So we hope to see some improvements. These are the endpoints that we've had at Hook Pond. Almost 80% of the samples do exceed that high bacteria level. And further south, like I said, the water definitely is cleaner there. Where's all this pollution coming from? It's stormwater and road runoff. It's septic systems and cesspools, especially that leach out when the ground gets saturated when it rains. Fertilizers and chemicals that are washing off of people's lawns with irrigation or rain, and then waterfowl that are hanging out in the ponds. This is adding pathogens to the water that can make us sick, but it's also adding a lot of nutrients, and then we're obviously we've all been experiencing these harmful algal blooms more and more frequently over the last, this past decade, which has been really unfortunate and taking away a lot of that recreation that we all cherish so much and that a lot of our local business and community is based on. So this is what we're really aiming for with this project, is we want to see less of these signs around town. If we swing over to the Village Green bioswale, excuse me, this is what the site looked back in 2016. At the time, the village was regrading to better manage the flow of water and road runoff that was coming onto the site. And at the time, Stephen Mahoney with our local chapter, as well as Tony Piazza from Piazza Horticultural, put their minds together and said, rather than, just replanting this with more grass, why don't we put a project here that's really going to have an impact on absorbing this runoff and helping to clean the water before it moves down our watershed. It's when they reached out to LVIS and they were very supportive of the project. And so they planned this beautiful bioswale project, which is basically just landscaping with native plants that are able to really absorb that runoff and filter out the water as it percolates through the ground. Some people call these rain gardens. At Surfrider, we like to call them ocean-friendly gardens because of our love for the ocean and the beaches. It's also a program that we're running nationally, our sustainable landscaping and education program, to really help make the connection for people that what they do in their own yards and our public greens really affects water quality locally, where we like to play in the water. So the project really mimicked the natural contours of that property. Tony designed this beautiful project that really, in my mind, I like to describe it as a stream of beautiful native plants there that have really added a lot of beauty to the village. I love looking at it seasonally to see what's in bloom, but it's really also functioned really well to help absorb the water that lands on the site. And it's also providing a lot of great habitat for local pollinators. One of the reasons why these native plants work so well at absorbing water and filtering out pollution, is because of what they look like under the ground. These are the beautiful root systems that they have that are 6, 10, 12 feet deep that really function to stabilize the sediment and the soil, absorb the water, and really soak up a lot of the pollutants, especially the nutrients that are in that road runoff. If you look in the red circle on the side of the screen, that's what the roots look like on the same scale for turf grass. So that's makes a pretty striking example of why our lawns really don't do so good at absorbing rain as they could. Just to go back a slide here, this is what our data has been looking like at this site. In the town pond, about 33% of the samples we collect do exceed that high bacteria level. I actually was expecting this to be higher, because of the waterfowl that are always there. I'm not showing you the same graph for the data that gets collected when there's standing water on the bioswale. I'll tell you that if there's water there, the bacterial levels are generally very high. However, what I think illustrates the success of this project even better is the fact that there's hardly standing water there anymore. If we go back to 2016, you know, when I had those photos I was showing you first, from September through the end of the year, we collected 7 samples there. Basically, we're testing every Monday. And if there's water to be collected on this site on a Monday, we pull a sample and analyze it for bacteria. So in 2016, there was water there on 7 Mondays in just a couple of months. In 2017, we only captured 2 wet events on a Monday. And then 2018, there were 6. It was sort of a wet year as well. But then the last couple of years, it's only been a couple of times a year where there's actually water there. So the good news is this native garden is really functioning well to absorb that runoff and get it into the ground before it's washing down to Town Pond and Hook Pond and causing more problems there. So if we swing over to Methodist Lane, there's another opportunity there. It's a big green area. There's a lot of lawn there that receives a lot of runoff that sort of sits when it's wet. It's also sitting right on top of the Hook Pond watershed, which we know has issues with bacteria, has issues with too much nutrients, with dissolved oxygen, and with these blue-green algae blooms that really have been a nightmare for all of us here on the East End. So we have been working with those same partners that I mentioned earlier, and Tony Piazza has designed a bigger, more beautiful project to put here that has, if you see in the blue area, that is a wetland area that we're going to put plants that are very similar to what you see over on the Village Green. Next to that is where you see the pink buds. That's more of a pollinator garden area that we're planning. And then the bigger tan area is a native meadow. So removing some of the lawn, restoring a beautiful native meadow, and then there's going to be 20 native trees that will be there as well. Again, adding a lot of much needed native habitat to the area. Let's see, right. So those are the different components of it. And this is really going to help, like I said, absorb that runoff. It's going to decrease, you know, the energy inputs that's required for, you know, regular lawn maintenance. And it's like the other garden will just be like this beautiful area for the community. We are also planning a lot of educational programming around this with our partners that we hope really is going to be impactful. Let's see. Excuse me. Sorry, my slides were frozen. These are just an example of some of the plants that we will be including in this wetland area and in the bioswale. We've been working with the Garden Club and, you know, the different partners on coming up with those native species that are going to do best in the habitat there and function well. So we have been raising money through private donations to fund this project, and we did receive a nice large grant from the town CPF program so that we can finally move forward and install this project. That $127,000 project includes the project planning, site preparation, which we're hoping to start in the spring, plant material that we're going to need, and the installation. Piazza Horticultural is going to oversee, with Tony Piazza and his group, they're going to oversee the installation of this project, as well as 2 years of maintenance that will be covered with this funding. At the same time, our Surfrider chapter's working to establish a volunteer club of sorts that's going to help with the long-term maintenance of these projects. There's a lot that volunteers can do to keep these gardens looking nice. So that's sort of happening in parallel. We're going to continue to test with our Blue Water Task Force water quality monitoring program. And like I said, we really want to develop some educational outreach programming around this. What we're working on now is ordering the plant materials. Like I said, training the volunteers. As far as the educational programming goes, we are really hoping to do some really nice photo documentation of the project, sort of before the project goes in, when it looks, like those images I showed, as well as it's going in and the garden grows in, so that we can really see the transformation of the site. We'd like to also have sort of a short film that we can put together to really talk with, the community about the benefits of these types of landscaping practices. We do some film showings at Surfrider. We're hoping these would also be useful for our partners. I don't know if I should stop for questions here. We've spoken with the mayor about potentially getting a resolution from the village. This is something that I think would be good to have, especially with the funding coming from the town, just sort of. And then, we'd also like to talk about long-term, we're going to get this garden in the ground. We're going to have these, volunteers ready to help with the maintenance, but long-term, we'd love to have a conversation about how can we keep this garden, this bioswale looking good for the long-term, and, what are the different, resources each of the partners, LVIS, the village can maybe bring towards helping us on that. I guess if there's questions, I could take them. I'm not quite sure how we want to.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'm sold on this from the first time I saw the presentation, and I'd love to move forward with it. The LVIS obviously has been a partner of the village since we've been in existence. So I think it's great. I think it's wonderful that you've taken the time and the effort to even do this for us. And I'm 100% behind it.
I think this is a really worthwhile project. I think everyone in the village has seen how successful and how attractive the one by Town Pond is. And I think this is just a win-win.
I agree.
I agree 100%. I think the Surfrider Foundation is an extraordinary group of people. They do a lot of great things around here. I support them 100%, and I support this project as well. I can't wait.
I would just echo what everyone has said, that Town Pond has been such a successful program. It's aesthetically pleasing, and most importantly, it's environmentally effective by reducing the pollutants and so forth. And also to commend your efforts, with our youth. I know the Surfrider program has a program at the middle school. My son's involved in it, and they do a lot of good work, and they're so proud of the work that they do for the beaches, cleaning up the beaches and some of the recycling projects. And I believe they did through the Surfrider program, the oyster seeding project, which again, was another outstanding thing. So I'm also in full support.
Yeah, and with the educational program, we want to get groups like that, that club at the middle school out to, and we have in the past, bring them out to the bioswale, explain, the different plants that are there and how it functions, right, to protect water quality through the watershed. And we want to look for different groups that we can talk to about these types of things as well. One question I'd like to ask you all is, we want to do a short film. We're talking about probably a 5-minute or less, that just, documents this whole process, maybe includes our water testing a little bit, so that we can really feature this project to other communities. Is there any special permission we need to get from you? We're not planning on showing up with a Hollywood film crew by any means. It's, our treasurer, has some equipment that he'd like to use to just get some really good visuals of this project. Are there any objections or anything we need to know about doing that?
No, the only, we've canceled all filming permits and all yard sales, all estate sales due to the COVID regulations. So the only thing I would ask is that you don't have more than, 10 people gathered at the site. That's all.
That's perfect. Thank you for mentioning that, because we did do one training with some volunteers at the existing garden about a month ago, and we were seven. I didn't want to make it big. There were 7 of us. That was it. We had our masks. You know, we kept our distance and everything. But let's say we come out of COVID soon. Let's hope, right?
Let's hope.
And we're able to do larger events. Like, are there permit requirements, say if we want to show up with 30 volunteers and have a work day? Is there anything we need to do for that?
Yeah, there is a permit required from us for filming. So, I mean,
Well, I mean, like for a work day, we're gonna go trim plants. We're gonna.
oh no, nothing like that. No.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
And right now, so long as we're under 10, we're good.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Great.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. I think I would like to just recommend we put it on for our next meeting for a resolution from the board, and then we'll have the green light from us.
Great, I second that idea.
All right, great. So Marcos, if you could just put that on for us for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming. All right, next up is Captain Long.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. I'm just going to pull up a screen here to share. Hopefully everyone can see. Can you see the screen, Mr. Mayor?
All good.
Okay, good. So good morning. The chief and I have been working with the mayor, deputy mayor, and village administrator, coordinating some proposals for integration with Park Mobile, which is, as we discussed at last meeting, our paid parking app for the village. So let me just pull up my screen here to forward things. We'll get going. So proposed areas that have been discussed for paid parking, which please keep in mind, it's in addition, we're not changing the free parking. So street parking currently has 1 hour free parking. That will remain the same. We're not changing that. What we are proposing is the ability to pay for additional parking up to a maximum of 4 hours is what we're proposing. So street parking, the 1 hour zones on Main Street, Newtown, Panago, Lumber Lane, and Gingerbread Lane Extension. The parking lots, again, 2 hours are free. And then the additional ability to pay for another 2 hours in the Rudishan, the Skank parking lot, the Chase, Osborne, and North Main lots. Long-term commuter parking, which are going to be the Lumber Lane lots 1 and 2, and the Railroad Avenue 7-day parking area. We can talk about the handicap parking spots. I know the village has had some questions from the public regarding that and how we're going to treat them. They're currently 3 hours free parking, and that's going to remain. We are proposing an additional 1 hour of paid parking for a total of 4 hours in those spots also. And then we've got the beach parking lots. I don't know, I'm going to try to zoom in here a little bit so we can see. Jill at the Highway did this great map for me. I want to thank her for that. It's hard with mapping when you try to put it on a computer screen, so we didn't label anything, but essentially this is Newtown Lane, where the hand is moving back and forth, and then this is Main Street. And then we've got North Main Street here and Panago Road here, and our parking lots. So as we move through the discussion, I can keep coming back to this screen, but essentially the railroad parking, the 7-day is up here along the railroad tracks. The 2 parking lots up at the long term, up by the John Marshall and Eleanor Whitmore School. We've got our Osborne Lane parking lot up by the middle school. We've got our Skank parking lot up off of Newtown and North Main. Of course, the Rudishan parking lot in blue. The Chase parking lot over by Chase Bank and Village Hall. And then our Main Street 1 hour parking and the Newtown Lane 1 hour parking. So those are the areas we're talking about. And I'll go through each area and just the ideas that we had for each particular area. So the first area will be the street parking. Current rules are 1 hour free parking, and that's the maximum you can park there, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. We are proposing that the 1 hour remains free, and that you're able to pay for an additional second hour, third hour, and fourth hour, a maximum of 4 hours. And we would increase the enforcement time to 12 midnight. Currently, we stop at 7 p.m. The thought is that we would increase that to 12 a.m. And we also discussed increasing the time zone on Main Street down to 114 Buell Lane by the library. The second area, the 2 hour parking lots. Currently, we have 2 hour free parking for a maximum, which is actually now, due to the mayor's order, 3 hours. But barring that, it's a 2 hour maximum in these parking lots. And it runs from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then the North Main lot is a little different. It runs till 9 p.m. We're proposing the 2 hours remain free, and you can pay for a third or fourth hour for a maximum of 4 hours total, and increase the enforcement time again to 12 midnight. So it would run from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. And then our long-term commuter parking, the 24-hour lot, which is the lot nearest Herrick Park, will remain free for under 24 hours. The 14-day lot, which is nearest the YMCA, that has 24-hour free parking, and then it's paid beyond that up to 14 days. Current regulations allow village resident beach sticker holders to park there for free up to a maximum of 14 days, and town residents that purchase a permit can park there for an annual fee. And everyone else pays per day. And that's the current rule in that lot. And then the Railroad Avenue 7-day parking is currently free along the tracks there up by Fresno. So what we're proposing for these zones are the 24-hour lot will remain free and will not allow any additional time. This lot is mainly used by the employees and persons staying longer in the village than the 2 hour maximum. So we wanted to keep that the same. The 14-day would remain paid over 23 hours up to a 14-day maximum, but we would transition from using the machine that is currently in that parking lot to the Park mobile app. The Railroad Avenue 7-day parking will be paid parking only. It's important to note that there is a section of parking along some of the near the local businesses that are 30 minutes. That is going to remain there under the proposal and will remain free. It's just the parking spaces that are further to the west that are 7-day that we'll start charging for. Handicap parking, 3 hours free, that remains as it is now. You'll be able to pay for a fourth hour. And again, we'd increase the enforcement time to 12 midnight, so it would run from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. for a maximum of 4 hours. And then the beach parking lots. So currently we have beach sticker parking during the summer from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we have, at, I believe, Main Beach and 2 Mile, we have a limited number of day passes that we sell at each of those beaches during certain times. What we're proposing here is beach stickers will remain the same, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Those limited number of day passes will be available via the app, the Park mobile app, at those 2 beaches. Pursuant to the current laws, I know there's some restrictions on holidays and whatnot where they're not sold, so that will all remain in effect. And what we're proposing that's new is from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. paid parking by the hour, unless you have a village beach permit. So if you go up at 5 o'clock and you don't have a beach permit, you'd be able to park there by paying through the Park mobile app. And that's it, Mr. Mayor. I know I went through it kind of quick, but.
Well done. Very nicely done.
Thank you. You want me to keep the screen up, or I can pull the map up, or do you want me to close it?
No, what's next on your presentation? Is that it?
That's it. I went through it pretty quick. I figured we'd have some discussion and answer any questions if any of the board members had questions.
Yeah, so maybe you can leave the map, I mean, not the map, but leave the screen up in case somebody wants you to go back to a certain screen to explain something.
Okay.
Does anybody have questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions here. I think, I'm not so sure it's a good idea to make the street parking available for up to 4 hours. I think that the merchants in the village kind of would prefer that those spaces turn over more. I mean, we could make it available to extend past an hour after 5 o'clock. So people could park there and go to dinner or go to a movie. But I think that during the day, the merchants would probably prefer those spots turn over more. Because, you know, if someone's going to park there and the car is going to be in front of the hardware store for 4 hours, that's a spot that somebody can't nip into and run into the hardware store. That's one comment. In the 2 hour parking lots, I think it would be a nice perk for village residents if village residents who have a beach sticker on their car could get their 3rd hour in that lot free. The question in the long-term commuter parking, the 14-day, would that remain free to village residents with a beach sticker?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, and I think those are pretty much my comments. I want to keep them more concise.
I like Tiger's idea. Go back to the 2 hour. I like that idea, Tiger, with if you have a
3rd hour free.
If you are a village resident sticker, then you get the 3rd hour for free as well.
Yeah, because the auto chalk license plate reader system would know that those license plates have a beach sticker associated with them. So that would be pretty easy to do, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. Does everybody like that, or?
Definitely.
Yes.
I think it would be nice for the village residents.
All right, so did you write that down?
Yes, sir. I have it. It's easy to implement. We can certainly do that with auto chocolates.
All right, so what do we think about Tiger's other comment about the 1 hour? Tiger thinks, you know, we should only allow, I guess, the 1 hour until maybe after 5. So basically, I guess what Tiger's saying is once the stores that front those streets are closed, then we can allow for longer parking, say to go to a movie or a dinner or something like that.
Right.
Might be a good idea. I think that some of those businesses rely on that turnover. You know, the hardware store, Scoop, the coffee shops, the bookstore, you know, if those parking spots are tied up, you know, there won't be that turnover that will let people, you know, do a quick errand and leave. So it's a worthwhile consideration, and we'll see what the merchants and so forth think as well during our public hearing.
Yeah, I like it. I like it too. The only thing that I bring up is that, you know, you may stop there to think you're going to do a short errand and then you get tied up doing something else. And then when you return, instead of being able to pay a fee for that 2nd hour, you're stuck with an $80 parking ticket. So
I would like to say maybe just the parking spots that are, can you put the map again? There were some other spots that were 1 hour that were not in front of stores. Maybe the parking spots that are actually in front of the hardware or Scoop or those type of stores to get a maximum of 2 hours. The first one free, the next one paying. But then the other parking spots, like further away, they can have, you know, you can do the 4 hours. That would be my opinion.
Essentially right in the core, maybe the core business district, right along the businesses, we would not allow that to 4 hours, but in this area a little bit further up possibly, or down here on Panago or North Main Street?
Yeah, I would say, well, we need to make the revenue. That's where we're focusing in, but we don't want to make the village also residents be bothered by not being able to park for a long time. So I would say helping the business, but also helping the residents. It's just maintaining it in the core only. And then the outer you go, the longer you can stay.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you with that point. We certainly don't want it, the unintended consequence of this to have an adverse impact, on some of our businesses. So I think that's something to consider. It's a good idea to maybe have a maximum of 2 hours for those street parking that's on Panago, in front of Citarella, in front of the bookstore, Starbucks, Golden Pear, and so forth, with a maximum of up to 2 hours. But the 4 hours could really tie up a parking spot for a while. And, that could have an adverse impact on some of the businesses. And I know all of us here, are looking to try to help the businesses. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just remember, we haven't gotten into this yet, but, the third hour is going to be some reasonable amount of money. And then the fourth hour is going to be a larger amount of money to try to encourage the turnover of the parking spot. So, if you really need to stay, you could pay, but it's probably not something you're going to want to pay. So, but I like the idea. I think we should do that in the business core on the street. Let's do, if everybody's in agreement, let's do the 2 hour max. You can pay for the second hour. I just think it's still more friendly than getting an $80 parking ticket if you happen to run late. And then as you get away from the core, then like Sandra and Rose were saying, we could go longer.
And just keep in mind, Mr. Mayor, this area here, further down 27 Panago, down towards CVS, this is all 2 hour in here also. So on this side of the street.
And Mayor, what are we thinking for a fee? The first hour, as you said, that you're paying for will be one fee. And then the second hour will be a little bit more to encourage you not to.
Right. So
3 hours.
We met with Sag Harbor and we're trying to keep our fees somewhat in line with each other. Okay. However, they're not offering any or very limited free time is what they're thinking. So when you park, you're going to start paying pretty much immediately. So they were thinking maybe $5 an hour. And we're giving away 2 free hours, let's say in the lot. And then we would charge $10 for the third hour and then $20 for the fourth hour. So again, we're trying to encourage the turnover.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have to be aware that we don't want to make it too cheap because then you're going to allow employee parking there. And that's really defeats the whole purpose. Because if employees can fill up the lot and pay some $2 an hour, it's really not going to help business at all. So those are my thoughts.
Right. One of the things I think, Mr. Mayor, about the extending the enforcement time till midnight is that you are going to get people coming into the movies, and they're going to, I think that's going to be a pretty big revenue item, because if people come in and go to a 4 o'clock movie, they can park at 4 and then the enforcement expires at 6. So they don't have to pay any money.
Right.
Taking the enforcement out later is going to make that, more expensive.
Right.
Can I make one comment? The Chase Bank lot, we have an agreement with Chase regarding the hours. So if we want to change it, right now the agreement says 1 hour for Chase. So if we want to change that, we'll have to address that with Chase as well. So just so the board's aware.
I had a comment just on the street parking, and I agree with what Tiger said and Jerry as well. The one thing that I would just like to try and address is people parking, I don't want to call it on the outskirts, but when you get more towards Mary's Marvelous, or you get away from the village just a little bit to discourage people from being able to park for 4 hours on the street, even if they can pay, because stores like Whitendale's and Mary's and, you know, all these other stores are going to have someone camped out there for 4 hours. And, you know, I don't know how people are going to like that either. Do you know, I mean, making the money is great, but you know, there's a lot of people that live. I mean, there's actual residences in these areas where, you know, there's a car parked in front of your house for 4 hours, or it could even be an employee. I mean, a lot of employees of the village end up parking on Pleasant Lane, and they park, you know, more towards that area of the village, and there's little loopholes in there as well. So, you know, I think we should just keep it all as consistent as we can, so that people don't find areas to park in that, you know, cheap, for argument's sake.
You know,
Has there been any thought?
I think a $30 hit for 4 hours is going to be a pretty good. Well, actually, it'd be more than that, Chris, because it would be, they only get 1 hour for free. So the second hour is going to be 10. The third hour is going to be 10. The fourth hour is going to be 20. It's going to cost them $40 to park for 4 hours. And if they leave it for the fifth hour, they're going to get an $80 ticket on top of that. So I don't know. I think that's a pretty good.
I just wanted to, you know, it just be over the street parking to be somewhat consistent, whether it be everywhere or, you know, different on the, I could call it the outskirts, but however you want to call it, a little bit farther away from the village.
Yeah.
The other thing is that, yeah, you're right. I mean, I agree. The cost is going to discourage people from parking there. But, you know, again, I don't want someone parking on the outskirts and then going to the beach for 4 hours. And, you know, maybe that was, you know, they got to go to the beach for 4 hours for $80. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the nice part about it is, like we've been saying about everything we do, we can change it if it's not working, especially since it's an app. We can change it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that Sag Harbor, and I think even maybe Southampton, are leaning towards this platform as well, which would be easier for residents and of the towns and the villages surrounding us, that, you know, they only have to use one and they'll be used to it as well. So that's
right. And
I really like this choice.
It's also a real popular app in the city.
The other thing that I really like is the daily beach passes. Takes a little bit of the stress off of the administration at Village Hall and also at the beach office to not have to do that. People can use the app, and it relieves some work on village employees as well with those daily parking passes.
Yeah.
And the beach, the charge for parking at the beach in the evening, is there any way we could offer, you know, town residents perhaps that they would have either, you know, free parking in the evening or some kind of different fee than, say, visitors? Right now, everyone can park at the beach after 6, I believe, you know, whether you have a Village Beach sticker or not, but now we intend to charge until midnight. That was just a thought that I had as well.
Yeah, we thought about that too. And I would say if they have a Village Beach permit, you know, obviously then they would be not required to pay. Right. But again, you know, we're going to try to keep the bathrooms open later, which is going to cost extra money to keep them clean. We want to keep the beach attendants on later so that we have no garbage on the beaches. And, you know, I think all of that costs money. And if we're charging some reasonable amount, I think it's fair.
So it won't be like 10 per hour or 20 per hour.
Like, oh, I'm sorry, Rose, we haven't even got there. What I had in my mind was, you know, like a $5 per hour type fee. Something
so different than the downtown.
Say that again?
Different than the downtown.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Has there been any?
I have a question for Anthony. Is there any way to keep people from actually driving on the beach and parking their cars? Because again, I'm serious.
No.
If you have a 4-wheel drive, you know, why would you pay to park? They're just going to pull their car right onto the sand.
The chief and I just had that discussion yesterday, because I suspect people with four-wheel drives will be able to do that after 6.
And is there a way for, and again, I know it might have a conflict with the trustees, but is there a way to not have cars park right on the entrance, or, is there any way we can divert that if it's a problem? If you understand what I mean?
I think you can address that with the trustees and come up with some legislation. I mean, currently you can't block the accesses. So if somebody pulled right on and parked, that would be illegal currently. But I think you can certainly make it where, if you work with them to come up with some sort of legislation prohibiting people from parking right at the head of the beach, possibly. I mean, but you would have to do that with coordination with the trustees, I believe.
Like outside of lifeguarded areas or something like that.
And Mr. Mayor, was there ever any thought given to the Osborne Lane lot where we could perhaps sell monthly passes to, people who work in the village core?
Yeah, I know Rose had brought that up a while ago, and I thought that was a pretty good idea, but we haven't really explored it any further. So if you have ideas with it, love to hear it.
My original idea, Jerry, was, there are 21 spaces there, as you know, and it's so underutilized. You and I have had this conversation before. We both agree on that. Even if we were just to sell, yearly passes to anyone who would be interested in having a parking space and knowing that it's centrally located, we could try something like that. I don't think we're able to restrict it to a certain group of people. You can't just say 4 businesses in the district. I think Beth had weighed in on that for us. But certainly, for $1,000 a year, that's $3 or change a day. That's, something, or 500, we could talk about it. But then people know they have, a spot in the village that's centrally located. And that would also free up spots in the other lots where they might be parking, like Skank or Rudishan. And that would help us as well. Where merchants sometimes park there and they do a shuffle and stay in the lots all day. If they had a designated parking spot at Osborne, then that would free up those spaces as well. So it would really have a benefit in many ways. And it's not used at all. So,
it's really not used at all.
So,
I think it's a great idea. We just have to see how we would advertise it? I guess we could put something in the.
I talked to Dave Collins, and I think he's ordered some signs. I think that people are unaware, that there's parking there that's available to them.
If I could just interrupt a second, I think it's a great idea as well. One thing I would caution, and we learned this basically from the railroad parking area, should someone be able to, for lack of a better term, purchase the rights to a spot, and it's for a business in that area, we would want to limit that to business hour operation. Because what we got with the 7-day, what we had with the 7-day railroad parking area, we had businesses that were located out of town that were basically storing their vehicles in those spots. So the last thing I know we would want would be someone that has those spots, but is not even a working business within the district. So we wouldn't want to usurp the people in that area that have businesses from utilizing those spots by accidentally selling the spots to folks that really don't need them, but
that's a good point.
Resources to buy them.
Maybe we could limit it to like 72-hour parking, or it's a good point, because what happened, what Chief's talking about is we had CVS basically parking huge trucks in our long-term lot, and it was basically a pod. It was just storage that they couldn't fit at their store. So they were using the parking spots and then just moving the truck every 24 hours. So I think we want to definitely avoid that, especially it's pretty close to a residential neighborhood too.
Maybe no commercial plates. I mean, is that something that we can legislate?
That's already in effect in those parking lots. That's currently in effect. So you can just put a restriction on permit purchasers saying, keep in mind, this law is in effect. Don't purchase it if you're a commercial vehicle and you want to park there, because you won't be able to park overnight.
The same with taxis. We wouldn't want to see, 20 taxis parked in there. So
it might actually be a benefit to some of those businesses that are there, because I know that they often are looking for parking for their employees as well. They might actually be interested in the parking.
And as long as it also doesn't allow overnight parking, because as we know, there's nothing open in the business district overnight, except for the police department.
Well, thank you to Captain Long. This was a great presentation in the PowerPoint. Appreciate it.
No problem. Glad I could help.
All right. Any other questions? We'll move on to our buildings and facility manager, Fred Verity. He's going to talk, and just for the public's knowledge, I just want to go over 101 Main Street is a building that is owned by the village. It is leased for a very minimal amount to the Historical Society for their use, but it is the village's responsibility to maintain this building. The second location is obviously Main Beach. That's our Main Beach Pavilion. Again, that's our building, and it's our job to maintain it. And then we have the Spray Cottages. Now, the Spray Cottages, if you go back in time, were part of the Spray Inn. The Spray Inn burned down in the 70s, and then the village acquired those cottages, which we rent for a substantial amount of money every year. So all of these buildings have been evaluated, and Fred has a report for us. So go ahead, Fred. You're muted, Fred.
Okay, you got me? Sorry. Okay. Good morning. First of all, I want to start with 101 Osborne Jackson House, which is currently housing 4 employees from the Historical Society. And they've been in there for quite a few years. The building is in need of much needed infrastructure repairs. That's what I'm presenting today to the board. To go out to bid, actually the first phase of the project. And we'd like to be able to move ahead at least with the first phase. The second and third phase we can do maybe in the next year. So that's basically it. It's an infrastructure problem that we have inside. We've had Drew Bennett, our engineer, review this. And we've also actually had a local builder, Ronald Webb Builders, actually came and looked at the job as well and gave us some insight as to what's going on there. We have a temporary shoring that's inside the building that's where we need to do the repairs. So we basically have to go in and do those repairs, which would take some time, probably about 30 days or more, a little over 30 days to do. And we need to get this addressed, because this building is getting older and it's in need of much need repair. Over the years, the past administrations obviously didn't allocate a lot of funds to this building, but we now need to address this in a much larger fashion. So, I'm asking for quite a bit of, it looks like there's quite a bit of money that's going to be needed to do the job. So I'm asking to do it in phases. Obviously, the most important phase is the first one, and that will give us some time to go out to bid for the second and third phases as well, and which will, shore up the building, make sure the building is structurally sound, and also do some outside work as well to the front porch of the building. And start working on some of the aesthetics of the building. So that's what I'm asking for now. Right now, we need to work on this fairly soon, because we don't want to have any other issues get worse in that building. So that's where we stand with that. We have an RFP out that we've gotten from Ronald Webb Builders, who is, like I said, worked very well with us and gave us some really good insight as to what's going on there, along with the DPW and Drew Bennett, our engineer, as well. So we need to move along with this project. I'd like to at least do the first phase this year and put this on immediately onto the board, which I believe it is on the board today to be voted on to go out to bid. And then the other two phases we can do in the next year's budget. So that's where we stand with that infrastructure issue of that building. If
Brett,
there's any questions.
I have a question. I just want to, the information we're getting back is that this is going to be a substantial amount of money for the entire phase, all three phases or four phases.
That's correct. We're looking at a sum of almost $300,000. I can't tell until we actually go out to bid. It could be more, it could be less. But we're looking at right now, based on an RFP that we did shoot out for, we're looking at the first phase between $80,000 and $100,000. But that's what we're looking at, a substantial amount of money, almost $300,000 for the whole project.
And Fred, going back in time, I have talked to Maria Van. She's been there only a few years, but say over the last 10 years, how much work has been done on this building?
Well, we haven't done really a lot of work to this building. We've done, we did a structural job back in the 90s that I know of. I came on board with the village in 1994. So we did do a new oil burner system in there, a gas burner system for heat. We've done some cosmetic work. We've done work on the roof, but we haven't really done a lot of structural work to this facility. It is an old building with doesn't have very much of a foundation, has old pond rock under there. It needs a lot of attention. And like I said, over the years, there wasn't very much money budgeted for this project, like a lot of buildings that we have throughout the village. And we're now seeing, as they're getting up in age, we're seeing a lot more bigger projects that we're up against, we're facing.
Yeah. I mean, as I look at the budget, and we weren't involved in this budget that we're currently in, but there was, for maintenance for that building, there's only $5,000 for the entire year budget.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about how they were budgeting that building, how they were coming up with that. I wasn't involved in the budget end of that facility. I can't speak for past administrations, but like I said, it's been out there and it has been looked at and addressed. And over the years, the Department of Public Works has also requested work to be done there. So like I said, I'm not pointing fingers, but I basically can say what's in front of me right now and what needs to be addressed, and that's what I want to emphasize here. And we don't want the building to fall apart and then become such a problem that it's a real problem then. So at this point, we have to move, and unfortunately, you're going to be looking at a lot of money that to start to get this project up and going.
Right. So just to give everybody here a background of what happened, how this even came about, I was actually in the building visiting Maria, the executive director there, and she showed me the fireplace in the back room where the molding had separated from the fireplace, and it really looked a little dangerous, to say the least. And so we that's when we got Drew Bennett involved, and that's when the extra bracing went up. And according to Drew, the building is safe now that we have the bracing up, but she certainly can't operate the Historical Society.
No, not at present time. We've got the whole floor is actually all just piled up, and all her contents are in piles all over the building. So, that's why I said I gave you a time frame of how we're going to do this project. If we can do the project as soon as we can in the first phase, we can do, at least the first phase, and she would be probably inconvenienced for, 4 to 6 weeks.
Right.
where we can get her at least back into the building operating, and then we can start the second and third phase, which would be, obviously we can do that at a later time, and obviously budget the monies for that as well.
Okay, that's great, Fred. So now we're going to move on to Main Beach, and this is a little unbelievable to me. I was up at Main Beach with Fred and Marcos the other day, and we were going through the building, and apparently what you have to do when you go in this building is you have to make a lot of noise, so to make sure the raccoons aren't in the same room with you. So yeah, it's just unbelievable. But I wanted you to hear it right from Fred. So go ahead, Fred.
Okay, well, let me explain it. It's a facility that's at the beach, and it doesn't have a foundation, and there are places where animals can get in and get out, and it's basically closed down for the season. And this is when it really happens the most, is that in the winter time. Raccoons do tend to get in there, and other critters. We have cats, feral cats that are up there as well that we've chased out. You know, the other day I wasn't sure if it was a raccoon or a feral cat, but they're up there, and we have to periodically chase them around and get them out of there. And we can get that addressed, I think, fairly simple. One of the problems we have up there is we have the feral cat colony that has been up there for many, many years. And they seem to have, the people that are running these, that are feeding these animals up there are, you know, doing a great job taking care of the cats up there, but they've now seemed to have strayed over to our buildings and put food underneath the buildings. And what happens is like everything, you start feeding for one animal, you might have more than one type of animal there. So that's what first we should do, is right away stop that, and make that a policy that they cannot do that on our property. So that would be the first thing we should do with that. And basically you just go and shore up where they're accessing raccoons and feral cats in the building. And plus, down under the building, there's a lot of equipment that's still down there, plumbing and access. Very, very hazardous for anybody who has to walk down there, or climb down there, or crawl down there for that matter. And plus, you're obviously going through you know, all this other stuff that's down there. So I have witnessed it there. I just witnessed it the other day, and we've now put a lock on the one access point for people not to get under there. So hopefully maybe they'll get the hint, and maybe we can put some signage down there that says no trespassing. So that's okay. one of the big problems there with that. So
well, I'm really worried about these the raccoons though, because
yeah, you don't want to mess with one. So,
well, not only that, they're getting up into the building. They're without a doubt they're going to cause damage.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to leave behind things that are, you know, not healthy.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree.
Oh, but why hasn't? All right.
Well. Hello. You might be losing me. I'm losing my battery on my phone. No, like I said, the other stuff is, like I said, we could fix that very simply by blocking them off and stopping the food from going down there. So that's really all I can say about that. We are working on the gas main under that building as well to get that replaced. So that will be coming up to the board very shortly.
So according to Fred, without that new gas main, we can't open the chowder bowl.
No, you cannot. It's the system has been shut down we had a leak there back in June, and we repaired it. We repaired one leak, but we found several other leaks under the building. So at that point, due to COVID, we shut the whole system down. And that's when we found out from National Grid that by their recommendations that we really go and look at this whole system being replaced. It hasn't been replaced in quite a few years. It has been replaced, you know, before, but I'm talking about at least 10 years. And with the salt and the elements down there, it just eats the plumbing
So you
up.
shut the gas down to the building in June?
That's correct.
So that means we had no hot water for the showers, nothing.
Well, we were not using the showers in the bathroom. The bathrooms were, the only thing that was open in the bathrooms was supposed to be just the public bathrooms to use, men's and ladies' bathrooms. The showers were not utilized.
Well,
if somebody was using it, they were getting a cold shower.
well, it's still bad. How do you wash your hands with no hot water in the middle of a COVID crisis?
I agree. But like I said, based on the circumstances, and we've gotten now, and we're working on an RFP for that project as well. So that will be coming forward to you guys very soon.
Well, just moving forward, Fred.
How long is it going to take to fix the gas, Fred?
Not long. You're talking about a week, less than a week to probably do all the plumbing and, dig out. They have to do a little digging underneath the building, but it's not a big project. We're talking 2 hot water heaters, and we're talking a couple of gas stoves in the chowder bowl, but it's not a big project.
Okay.
It's probably going to take longer to get National Grid to hook us up and approve everything more, and that paperwork, more than it will to actually do the physical labor. But I should have an RFP for you guys very shortly, probably within the next 2 days.
Okay. Well, let's go on to the next mess.
Okay. Well, Spray Cottages in Georgia, I'd like to defer over to David Collins. He's kind of knows a lot more about it. I've only been really coming into this and seeing what's going on over there in the last 2 months. So if David can pick this up, that would be great.
Yes, thank you, Fred. So DPW has pretty much handled the handyman repairs along with the beach crew handyman who does it during the summer. We take care of minor repairs at Spray. We have a budget for the 12 units of $25,000, and we're significantly beyond minor repair in some places there. They had started a roof replacement program a number of years ago before I came on. It got stopped for some reason. So I believe only 1 or 2 units were re-roofed, and the remainder of the units need roofs. We have chimney issues. We're trying to figure out whether we can abandon the chimneys or we have to rebuild the chimneys because it is in a historical district. So we may have to keep the chimneys in place depending on what the historical preservation rules are. So you're looking at that type of thing. We're dealing with the same issues there that we deal with at the pavilion. It's a harsh environment, salt environment, and constantly getting beaten by wind and rain and salt spray. So it takes a toll on exterior sidings, the trims, soffits. Everything needs paint. We have a lot of rot issues because of the moisture in the area. Decks, we're constantly chasing deck boards there. We've replaced deck boards for a number of years. We're probably getting at the point where we'll have to look at the structural integrity of the decks. We have 2 back porches that have structural issues at units 1 and 2. And probably the biggest issue is unit 14. The foundation there is, I'm not sure whether it's on locust post or concrete piers, but that building's pretty much almost in the soil. There's a very, very small area for the guys to get under to do plumbing repairs. And it's been recommended that has a foundation done. And of course, we're in a coastal zone there. So to do a foundation on a building like that, I'm really not sure what we run into with requirements for putting foundations in. It could be quite an extensive job to meet DEC and coastal engineering requirements. typical issues there that we're finding with everything. We've just kind of been patching stuff together for a number of years, and we're just getting to the point now where things are catching up to us, and we need to address some of the major issues.
All right. Lots of good news. So, hey, Fred, you have any other? I know we didn't have.
No, can I hold on the EMS building? I can give that to and do another presentation because that's quite large, and I don't have it all together.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. I know you've been trying to get hurricane windows for like the last 10 years.
Yeah, I that's part of it, but okay. But I don't want to bore everybody to death.
Okay.
So mainly we're looking at the 101 Osborne Jackson House, and then probably the next board meeting we'll be asking about the gas onset for Main Beach Pavilion. And we'll take care of the other issues, the critter issues at Main Beach.
Fred, I spoke to. Well, you've been telling me this been years. I don't know why it hasn't been addressed. So, but
yeah, no, it's like I said, it's. They've always been pretty good. The people that take care of those animals, they've always been away from the village-owned properties. But I believe what they want to do, is then when things quiet down at the beach, that's when they start moving over. And obviously the animals want to move over.
I'm worried about the raccoons getting into the building.
Yeah, well, like I said, we could take care of that. We'll deal with that. So
Marcos, just give me an update. I know Marcos, I spoke to him earlier. He spoke to Del Cullum, who's going to go down there shortly.
Right. Yeah, I can meet with him. That's not a problem. And we can just make sure that, we just have somebody monitoring this and making sure it doesn't. But like I said, if you bring food, they will come. So that's why we need to nip the food issue right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Fred.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. So
thanks.
We next up was Chief Tracy and Brian Lester. We're going to table that. We had some questions about that, so we're going to table that whole discussion for today.
Jerry, can I chime in for 1 sec?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
With these structures, whether it be the historical house, Main Beach, Sea Spray, Georgia building, we really need to put together a long-term plan, whether it be a maintenance plan or some type of roadmap so that we, us and future administrations don't get blindsided by some of these major upgrades because, these are big deals. This is not just regular maintenance and, having to piece together issues with emergency repair and have DPW go down there and fix things. It really isn't the right way to go about this. I mean, each one of these structures that the village owns needs a plan. It needs, I'd rather budget a little bit more money each year than come back and someone needing, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to fix something just doesn't make any sense to me where, I just can't believe that there's not a normal procedure for, the cottages, especially in Main Beach to say, hey, every 2 years we need to do this, or every couple of years we need to redo that. So, we have to all talk about it and put together some type of roadmap to make sure that these assets that the village owns are covered and they're being maintained properly. And it's upsetting because then you get stuck with a big bill. And
that's the problem. That's the problem we've been finding with everything in the village, that it hasn't been maintained, and that's part of the whole issue. I was talking to Bistrian about Town Pond, and if we had been maintaining Town Pond with hand rakes and each year, we probably wouldn't even be looking at a dredging right now. So it all comes back to a plan. It all comes back to yearly maintenance, and it just hasn't been done. So, and Fred can attest to that. So we need to definitely get on the right page here and start coming up with a whole plan. The problem is we're just facing so many problems all at once that that it's just going to be a little. We'll get it done, but it's just going to take a little work on all our part.
Yeah,
So,
I agree with Chris about setting up a kind of a capital plan roadmap for
yes.
how we deal with this, especially with all the structures of the beach that get sandblasted every time the wind blows.
Right.
I mean, we have to keep on top of this.
And these are our bread and butter.
Right.
You know, I mean, the beaches, the sea spray cottages, these things all make us a lot of money. And just to let it fall apart, it's just discouraging. So I don't want to waste any more time on this.
I think we're all in agreement that a comprehensive, maintenance plan for an improvement plan too, in some instances for the repairs, is we need a roadmap to go ahead and to do it in, a fiscally manageable way will be our challenge. We spoke earlier about paid parking. That's one of the ways that I think we're hoping to garner some revenue to pay for some of these improvements, whether it's wastewater treatment system or other things. And, we are lucky that we have a capital reserve fund and some cash on hand to make improvements when something that's unforeseen comes up. This is the first time I'm hearing about 101 Main Street and the repairs that are needed. And we certainly want to make sure that that's a safe building for the Historical Society and do what we need to do. And in the other instances too, I'm sure Main Beach, the rodent problem, the raccoon problem will be addressed. And, I was not aware that there was no hot water at Main Beach, to be honest, because of the main. So that's something we want to, for sure.
Yeah,
sooner than later.
All right.
Well, as I was taking cold showers all summer.
Well, we weren't supposed to be in the pavilion. So, as people who visit the beach, so I was unaware.
All right. So let's go on to discussion. So I had a proposal that I'm trying to put forward to honor the past mayors of the village of East Hampton for the last 100 years. So there are 11 past mayors that I would like to honor by honorarily naming the street that they resided on while they presided over the village. And I'd like to start in reverse order when we do this. And I'd like the first presentation to take place in January, and we would be honoring Paul Rickenbach by renaming or additionally naming Maidstone Avenue. And it would just be a sign. And I'm sure you've all seen these. They do them in the city, they do them in other communities. And basically it's just an ornamental sign that would go below the street sign, and it would have the dates of service and his name. And I think it would be a really nice tribute, especially during our centennial, to do something like this for all the past mayors. And it would also help people learn about the history of our village. So in your packet was provided a list of the 11 mayors that we would be doing. And I'd like to do one each month, starting in January with Paul, and then working down the list back to our first mayor or president, as Hugh said, Jonathan Baker. So anybody have any thoughts or comments?
I think it's a great idea, Mayor. The only question I had, when the signs go up, do they go up just for that 1 month, or do they go up and stay up throughout the year?
No, I was thinking we would leave them up permanently, forever.
Okay.
I like the idea. I think it's very, very nice.
I agree. It's a nice tribute to the past mayors.
All right, thanks. So we'll put it on the
for everyone, Mayor. There'll be the name of the street, and then underneath that will be the name of the mayor that had resided on that street when they served.
So we kind of had one mocked up. So it would be, you have the green street sign.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Maidstone Avenue, use that as an example. Then below that, somehow Dave is going to come up with an ornamental looking sign. Maybe it's brown and with gold writing or something like that. And it would say HON for honorable, Paul F. Rickenback Jr., and then his dates mayor and with his dates of service. So
Hello?
who's talking? Who's talking?
I'm trying to say something. Can you hear me?
Oh, Hugh, go ahead.
Well, I don't know what happened. Okay. I just want you to know the host has asked you to start your video. Okay. Hi.
There he is.
There's Loretta. Hi.
Hey, Loretta.
Say hi, honey. Hi. Okay. There is a street named after Judson Bannister, but it's way on the way out of the village, and it just says Judson Lane. All right. And that's not really that great. So I think you should do another one with the name Judson Bannister on it where he lived. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's all I wanted to say.
No, I agree. And then Hugh, you'd be a big part of this, obviously, because I'd like you to be at the dedication and give the history of the street, of the mayor, of the village. And, you know, obviously the family would be there. I think it would be a really nice tribute.
Great idea. I'm in. So let me know when. Okay.
Okay.
Can I just make one comment too? Just so everybody's clear, and I think you alluded to it, but it's not going to change people's addresses. You know, everybody's still going to live on the street that they're on. This is just a supplement, you know, tribute. So there's nobody's addresses are going to be changing or anything like that. So you don't.
Everybody gets their mail at the post office, don't they, in the village?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Now Beth is correct. We're not changing the street name at all.
Oh no, you don't want to.
So.
Great.
Right,
Great idea. Thank you.
Thanks, Hugh.
Okay.
The paid parking zones and times, I think we kind of went over this already, right? We're pretty much all on the same page.
The meeting. Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've gotten several requests, one from the library, one from Guildhall, and one from Maria Van about installing a crosswalk from the library to Guildhall. I know we've talked about this, or the previous boards have talked about this and have not attempted to get it done. I wanted to poll the board and see if we could request it from the state and see if we can get it done, because it is a very popular area when we're not in COVID, and it would be nice to have some sort of safety walk across the street. I'm certainly not in favor of traffic light or anything like that there, but I would like to see some sort of pedestrian walk across the road. Maria Van also said, you know, they do a lot of walking tours, and there's no safe way to cross the street. I know we have school tours that show up there, and lots of times the police department will have to put a police officer up there to get the school kids across. So I think we may not want to change that, but this would be a good supplement, I think. Anybody object or?
No,
I think it's a great idea. If we can find a way to have it done safely, I think it would be well used.
Yeah. Everybody.
I'm going to ask the chief to make the request to the state, and then they'll do their investigation. They'll tell us if they can do it or not. Since it is a state highway, we have to go through the state of New York. So
It's been brought up several times. I had thought we had approached the state before about it, but certainly I would be all for a crosswalk in that vicinity. I have noticed that there's people measuring, in that area, doing some surveying and so forth. Do you know what that pertains to? It just occurred to me.
I don't, other than maybe the traffic circle they've been talking about for.
Okay.
Yeah, Rose, if I could, just real quick, what I did last year, well, a little more than a year ago, I met with the regional director with the prior board, and we talked about that intersection. And one of the things the state was working on, and I believe they've been in contact with Drew Bennett, they're working on totally re-engineering that intersection, or looking for ways to suggest re-engineering that intersection. And one of the things, obviously, as the mayor alluded to, is a possibility of a traffic circle. Well, we have no idea whether that would be feasible, whether it would work, how safe it would be. What I did do yesterday is I called the government relations office at DOT, and I have there's a young employee there that I occasionally speak with, I let them know that a letter may be coming, which now that the board has given the okay, I'll be sending that letter today. But I let them know that while they're studying this intersection, we may be asking for a crosswalk in the area. But as I think most of you can imagine, a crosswalk there, we're going to certainly need their expertise as to whether it's going to be able to be done safely, whether it's advisable, or they're just going to flat out deny it. So it's got a lot of issues attached to it. It is a hazardous place to cross the road. You know, when we do man it on occasions, such as for high volume times, such as the film festival, we light up the street. And as you know, we use light towers, and anything short of a light tower or a high voltage light over the roadway on both James Lane's extension and right over a crosswalk, should it go in front of that library, it would have to be lit up very heavily, without a doubt. So that would have to be a component of any plan. It has to be like daylight for that to occur safely. No shadows, no darkness. But at any rate, it's it's for them to decide. I would venture to say, but we'll get it studied, and we'll get the word out today.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Mike. All right, so food trucks at the beaches. Who wants to tackle that? Chris?
I go first. Obviously, Main Beach is not part of the discussion because of the concession and the Chowder Bowl. I don't know what anyone else thinks about off-season, but I don't think a food truck would want to do it because there wouldn't be a lot of business. But I'm in favor of something at Georgia and 2 Mile. I know that there's a demand for it. And, you know, how we allow it or what everyone else thinks about it is I'm eager to find out. But I would like, I'm in favor of some type of vendor with water or food, beverages, something for the beachgoers, because I do know that they want it. And I've witnessed a couple times an ice cream truck up at one of those beaches, and it was well received. You know, I'm open to see what everyone else thinks, but I'm in favor of it as long as it was done right, and you know, was able to be managed correctly. For, you know, the residents are very protective of Georgia Beach and 2 Mile, and they want to make sure that it's quiet, and they want to make sure that it's a family beach, and you know, we have to keep that into consideration. But I do think that, you know, these beaches have bathrooms. These beaches are very popular. And I think allowing a little bit of service there is a good idea. So I'm interested to see what everyone else thinks.
I think it's something that we should seriously consider. And I think that the public will let us know when we have a hearing on it.
Yeah, I agree. As long as it's regulated and we let the public give us their input, I think we should go for it.
How about you, Rose?
Yes, I'm open to it as well. We'll see.
All right, so why don't we do this? Why don't we put it on, create a law, Beth, and let's put it on for a...
I don't think you need a law. I think, you know, the way the town does it is they do an RFP and they have people submit to get the road ends, you know, and they do a license with the vendor. So,
well, how would we go about then? I'd like to have a public, so no public hearing would be necessary then, is what you're saying?
No, I mean, you could schedule something like this that you're going to discuss it to allow the, you know, that you want public comment before the board moves forward with it.
I think we should get public comment. I totally agree. People have different perceptions of food trucks, and we want to make sure that we're doing this the right way. And
there are also different levels of food truck.
Yeah, I would suggest, if we're going to do this, that we start with maybe a pilot program. We just do one beach this summer, and that my suggestion would be 2 Mile Hollow, because it's a huge beach, and we just start slowly. and see what the reaction is. That's just my thought.
I have a question. Isn't it the code bans any selling of food in the streets?
It's
So
a
I think,
peddler law, I believe.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I think we should be amending the code in order to allow this.
Well, I think we can look at let's do public comment first and then see where we go from there.
Okay.
We don't want to change the code to then find out that the public doesn't want to do it. So.
Agreed.
That works.
Yeah, I agree as well. And you know, I don't know what the town charges for their licensing. Beth, do you know what the town charges for the license at their beaches?
I don't know the specific numbers, but I know I think it's a good amount of money. It's, I don't know the specific numbers, but I think people put in, you know, bids for the spot. I think they're highly desirable. Obviously the town has a lot more. They do them not only at the beach ends or in the parking lots. Like if you go to Montauk, you can see them. There's one in the IGA beach parking lot there. There's, you know, at basically all the beaches, Bay beaches as well. So I know Sammy's is down at the one at Gosman's Beach there.
So
they're popular.
So how do we get public input on this if we're not going to have a public hearing? I mean, how do we advertise that we want people to come on?
You could either put something in the paper saying, you know, the board is looking for public comment on this proposal to have, you know, food trucks or whatever you want to call them at, you know, we're going to start out with one beach, and what does the public think? We're looking to weigh in find out your opinions. If this is something that the residents are interested in.
Okay. All right, so we've got to move forward on that. Everybody's in agreement, so we'll try to move forward and get some public input, and hopefully we'll be successful. I mean, I certainly don't want to.
You know, the board's going to have a discussion on whatever your meeting date. Pick your meeting date. You know, this is the day we're going to have the discussion. Please either, you know, submit in writing, send emails, or, you know, appear to discuss this matter.
Okay.
Sherry, you have such a good point that people are very protective of their beaches and have very strong opinions about the beaches. So I think it's really important that we put this forward as a discussion, you know, as we've done with other things that don't require, or that we're going to put to a public hearing, but we want to develop the language in a way that's garners public input first, you know. And I think we should walk before we run and just consider one beach and with a food truck before we, you know.
Yeah,
it's always easier to add. It's more difficult to take away, you know, once you've started something.
No, I agree 100%. And none of us here are looking to do anything that the residents are not going to be happy with. So I agree, we take it slow, and you know, this is all new for everybody. So we should just, and again, no one here is looking to have one in our parking lots and our, you know, grocery stores. And we're trying to make it a convenience for the people who are attending the beach. That's the bottom.
It might be an amenity that people really, really want and have wanted for a while. You know, we'll hear from them or not.
So, all right, great. So the next thing on the agenda were repairs at 101, and we kind of went over all that. So I don't know if there's more needed on that, or is everybody good? We're just going to get the RFP and we're going to move forward. Okay.
I think that's right.
Dumpster fees. I was meeting with Sag Harbor and going over some of their codes with them, and they actually charge. So if somebody's going to do maintenance or construction on one of their buildings, and they're going to encumber 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 parking spots for a dumpster, they charge a $50 a day fee for each parking spot that is encumbered. And they found that it really helps to speed the project along, because people don't want to be paying the fees to you know, drag it on. And if, like for us, we don't charge anything, and the dumpsters may stay there for an extra length of time. So it's just a thought and just looking for input.
I like it. I mean, if we're going to charge someone $30 or $40 to park for 4 hours in a parking lot, I think the fee should be somewhat in line with that, because again, these dumpsters take up multiple spots, and they're not they're left there for too long, possibly. So I would be in favor of that.
I think anything that creates an incentive to have these things gone, because people will just leave them there if it doesn't cost them anything. They'll leave them as long as they want. I think we can create an incentive for them to be removed as quickly as possible.
Yes.
All right. Sounds like everybody's in agreement.
Yes.
Mayor, I think also in that the legislation I saw from Sag Harbor, they also have encumbering the sidewalk. And I think that would be an important thing to include, not only the parking space, but the sidewalk. So if somebody's going to do a facade improvement, they're going to set staging up on the sidewalk or get one of these mobile telehandlers that they park on the sidewalks, that this would be a way to encourage them to get that project done and not take up sidewalk space that pushes the people out into the street to walk around the sidewalk, puts the pedestrians in an unsafe position.
I agree.
Okay. All right, so Beth, you'll do something up with that?
We spoke the other day also about the alleys, as we had a complaint recently. The alleys, what they're doing.
That I asked Beth to put in a different section of law that we're creating. We are going to require, we're going to bring forward and ask the board to pass a law that's going to require store property owners and to maintain their buildings, to maintain the sidewalks in front or adjacent to their buildings, clear the snow, things like that.
Nice.
So Sag Harbor, again, we're looking at Sag Harbor because Sag Harbor already has this legislation. And what we were thinking of doing was putting that, exactly what you were going to say, Chief, into this legislation as well. And this is a letter in today's Star, and Christine Clark, who owns the knitting store in the alley, is very upset. And I spoke to her on the phone that the neighboring building shut down the public alley, and she couldn't get to her store and lost the day's sales out of there. So what we're going to do is put into this legislation, even if it doesn't require a building permit, the village must be notified when any substantial maintenance has to be done on a building so that we can evaluate the situation. And if they're going to close a public portion of the sidewalk, that needs to be cleared through us and not just done. And then we're trying to play catch up. So I asked Beth if she could incorporate that into that law. So I think that's what you were going to say, right, Chief? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right, beautiful. So that's a different law. But now we're going to go to this law. Beth brought this up at one of our staff meetings, and so I'm going to let you talk about it, Beth.
Sure. So this is the, where did I put my note here? We call them SWIP fees, which stands for Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, which is a requirement that the DEC requires for when you're doing more than an acre worth of work on your property, to make sure that stormwater is accounted for, and basically so you're not sending stormwater on to your neighbors and adjusting the topography in a way that creates problems, whether it be for other water bodies, for your neighbors, everything. So it's an encompassing plan that is reviewed by our engineer, who makes sure that it's a plan that will work and it gets signed off by the village. So currently our fees for reviewing the plan is we charge an application fee of $500 plus a review fee of 10 cents per square foot of area of the proposed site disturbed. So as you can imagine, some of these fees can sometimes be large. So in looking at other jurisdictions, it seems that most jurisdictions either have some sort of flat rate fee, or they specifically bill the engineer for the time and then the applicant would pay that amount. So in discussions with our village engineer, we came to the conclusion that the flat rate fee would probably work better here. And he has suggested the flat rate fee of $2,000 would encompass his time and everything that it would take to review these plans along with an application fee included in that. And so that this way we would just be charging that flat rate fee. And so this proposal would be to draft a new local law that would revise the application fee for the SWIPs. So that's what this is on the agenda for.
So just to highlight the issue, other jurisdictions, we'd still be the highest fee out of all the other jurisdictions that surround us. But the fee we were charging, and like Beth had explained, that you really have to be able to tie the fee to an actual work, time and work, and tie it to something other than just a fee. So, using a recent complainant about it, they were paying $25,000 for this fee, as opposed to what we're saying is $2,000 because it's 10 cents per square foot or something like that for the review. And I reached out to Drew, and he said his fee wouldn't change. He's going to be somewhere about $1,000. So to be charging a resident a crazy fee of $25,000 for something that's costing us, $1,000 for the engineer and our administrative costs, I just thought was, and Beth actually pointed out that if somebody challenged us, we would probably be in hard shape to justify what we were charging. So that's why this all came about.
Makes sense to me.
I'm the last guy that wants to cut fees, but if we can't justify it, we got to be reasonable. So, all right, I think that concludes our regular meeting. Our work session meeting. So now we're going to go into the regular meeting, and if June, you could read the resolutions.
Sure. Resolution number 1, notice for a public hearing to be held on December 18th, 2020 at 11 a.m. via video conference for introductory number 7-2020 to add a stop sign on Accabonoc Road at the intersection with Collins Avenue.
So moved.
Motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 2, notice to bidders for the Osborne Jackson House at the 101 Main Street Repair Project, Phase 1, with the bid opening to be held Tuesday, December 22nd, 2020 at 2 p.m. at Village Hall.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Okay. Number 3, notice to bidders for recycling service with the bid opening to be held on Tuesday, December 29th, 2020 at 2 p.m. at Village Hall.
We have to, let me just explain this. This should have been up in our discussion. We didn't bring it up. We realize that we do not do any recycling in our village. So actually the cans that we have at Main Beach and all our beachheads that say recycle on them actually go into one big pile and then go to an incinerator. So we're not doing any recycling at all. And I find that a little disturbing. So we have reached, or actually Sandra spearheaded this as well, and reached out to some vendors, and we can actually get recycled cans picked up twice a week and brought to an actual recycling center where they'll sort the materials and then actually do recycling. So not only would we have recycled cans, we would actually be doing recycling. So that's where this all came up from. So we would like to put out an RFP to see if we can get the best price possible for this service.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 4, adopt resolution 72-2020 to authorize the transfer of the balance in the Chase money market account to New York Class, New York Cooperative Liquid Assets Security System at a higher interest rate.
I'm just going to ask Marcos to comment on this before we.
We're just seeking a higher interest rate on that. Right now, we're getting 0.03 at our Chase money market account, and by transferring it back, I think Larry Cantwell moved it years ago when the opposite was true, and now we're just simply moving it back. But I think it's 0.09 right now as of this morning.
All right, great. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 5, authorize the mayor to execute the Town of East Hampton Water Quality Improvement Project Funding Award in the amount of $191,500 for the Town Pond Environmental Dredging Project.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 6, authorize the mayor to execute the agreement with Park Mobile for the parking enforcement system.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 7, accept Daniel Munez and Juliet Logie as new probationary members of the Ambulance Association.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, passed and carried. I'd like to welcome them aboard. Is that it, June?
That's it.
All right, so we're going to open up again for public comment. Jody, do we have anybody?
Currently, there are no callers on the line.
All right, so we're just going to wait a couple of minutes or a minute. If nobody signs on, then we're going to close the meeting, and then we're going to go into another meeting.
Executive session.
Yeah, well, I'll do it when we're ready. I'll make the announcement. Don't worry, I'm not going to mess it up.
While we wait, I just wanted to talk a little bit. This year, we're not having the Santa Parade. So we just want to, since COVID, we're not able to do the Santa Parade. So the Village and East Hampton Chamber of Commerce, we're trying to get something set up for driving movies. So I just want to let people know to check on the website for East Hampton Chamber. So maybe we can get some dates and some information there. Just go and put your email there and you'll get the dates and the information. We're trying to do the movies.
Yeah, actually, Sandra is working on getting these movies through the Chamber of Commerce, no cost to us, and then we would issue a permit, all COVID compliant, and we would use Lot 2 at Main Beach to project the movie. So we're looking forward to that. Hopefully that comes to be, but we'll find out shortly, I would assume, right?
Yes.
Great. Okay. All right. Any calls, Jody?
Mr. Mayor, this is actually Jason Nauer over here at LTV. I want to let you know that there are no callers, but soon we're going to have to actually reset our system and get it ready for the town board meeting that's coming up soon. If you guys are, if that's possible.
Yeah, no, we're wrapping up right now. I'm just going to close
Thank you so much.
I'm going to ask for a motion to close.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Second.
Wait, to go into executive session.
Oh, yeah. So we are going to close this meeting and we're going to go into executive session. Should there be anything that we need to talk about after the executive session, we will notify the press. So can I get a motion to close?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Passed and carried. See you in executive session.